The series begins during the long reign of the Joseon era, a dynasty that lasted for over 600 years before Korea entered the constitutional age. Even after the old system began to fade, its influence still controlled society. People were divided into strict social classes, and even wealth itself became something inherited through bloodlines and noble families. Inside one of the royal academies, there is an elite high school made only for the rich. We see a group of students gathers to check their exam results, and among them is a boy named Min Seok, who clearly acts like he owns the entire school. But the moment he sees the rankings, his expression changes completely. A girl named Seong has taken first place, while he ends up in second. And right then, the school's princess herself, Seong, appears in front of him with a smug smile. Mocking him without mercy, she says, "Aw, what happened? Didn't you say you'd take first place? Why are you so quiet now?" Then she continues teasing him with pure arrogance, telling him to know his place before walking away proudly. A little later, Seong is called into the principal's office where he congratulates her for winning and asks if she understands the school's policies. She calmly replies that he means equal opportunity, where everyone supposedly gets what they deserve. The principal confirms it proudly and reminds her that the school only accepts wealthy students from noble, high-class families. As a reward, he gives her a royal artifact dating back to King Sejo's era. At first, Seong is surprised that such a simple item is considered her prize, but she accepts it politely. Yet the moment she leaves the office, she casually abandons it on the staircase because in her eyes, someone like her deserves something far more valuable than that. 3 years later, Seong has become the owner of her own company, and her personality has only become worse. She absolutely refuses to accept defeat. If she loses to someone, it's never about the money itself. It's simply because she cannot tolerate being second place in anything. That's why she furiously scolds her employees after they lose an important business deal that causes a drop in sales. But to her, the financial losses mean nothing. What matters is her pride. She orders her staff to launch propaganda against her rival, a man named Lee, who has apparently been her enemy for years. Their hatred for each other runs deep. She even tells them to create chaos during the conference he's about to hold because he dared to ignore her and accepted the role of official organizer for the king's celebration instead of her. Seong promises them that she'll personally cause a huge scandal that very day since it's the king's birthday, and she has no intention of staying quiet. Meanwhile, articles attacking Lee begin spreading online exactly as she planned. At the same time, inside the royal palace, the crown prince is taking a shower after returning from a hunting trip, completely late for the king's birthday celebration. His assistant, Hyun, desperately calls for him to hurry up after even the housemaid failed to wake him. But when Hyun finally enters the room, the crown prince jokingly points a rifle at him and laughs, asking if he has become soft. Then he casually announces that he's just going back to sleep. Hyun panics and reminds him that today is the king's birthday, but the prince simply ignores him and walks away like he doesn't care about anything at all. That night, the royal palace becomes filled with important guests and reporters because this event is considered massive news. Everyone waits eagerly for the celebration to begin. But suddenly, Seong arrives in a blazing red car while wearing a stunning red dress, instantly stealing all the attention in seconds. It's as if she tells everyone else to move aside because their moment is over. Even the reporters are shocked by her appearance because she's the only guest not dressed in royal-themed clothing suitable for the occasion. But Seong doesn't care. She's naturally arrogant, rebellious, and does whatever she wants whenever she wants. After all, she has beauty, wealth, and power on her side. At the same time, back at her company, her employees secretly execute another one of her plans by rapidly selling out the exact outfit she wore at the party. With one move, Seong successfully boosts her company's sales again while making herself the center of attention among all the rich elites at the palace. But beautiful moments never last long. Soon she overhears some girls gossiping about her cruelly. They whisper that nobody even knew who she was until 10 years ago because she was born from parents who were never married. In other words, they insult her as an illegitimate child. They also call her mentally unstable because of her reckless behavior. And to prove just how dangerous she can be, Seong suddenly smashes a glass and terrifies them with the broken pieces in her hand. Right then, her brother approaches and tries to talk to her, but she completely ignores him. Annoyed, he tells her that people are right when they say she lacks class and manners. He sarcastically apologizes for the loss she suffered today after hearing her company's sales had dropped, but Seong doesn't care about his words at all. Later, inside the palace, everyone anxiously waits for the crown prince, who has been delayed for several minutes. Then finally, he arrives with an entrance so powerful and elegant that he instantly captures everyone's attention, even the king himself. And at that very moment, the king's nephew becomes completely fascinated by the crown prince's appearance. But his mother, who is actually the wife of the crown prince's older brother, immediately criticizes his outfit and says, "Is this really what you wear to a royal celebration? What are you planning to do? Go hunting. Hunting season is already over." But the crown prince casually replies that hunting has no season for him. On the other side, Xiong can't stop staring at him with clear admiration in her eyes. And it doesn't end there. A little later, she watches him again from the palace courtyard while he performs an incredible fire shooting display that leaves everyone speechless. The scene is so impressive that she becomes completely captivated by him. But soon, her attention shifts toward Prime Minister Min, a handsome man adored by almost every girl around him. Yet despite all the beautiful women present, the moment he notices Seong, he immediately walks straight toward her. Smiling, he asks, "Where were you? I didn't see you at the dinner table." Seong casually replies that she arrived very late, while he was obviously seated among the first guests. He laughs and tells her she's lucky because the event was so boring he almost fell asleep. Then he glances at her outfit and says, "There's definitely a secret behind this dress. You chose it on purpose, didn't you?" Seong confidently answers that this is simply who she is. If she acted normally, she wouldn't be Xiong anymore, but he warns her that what she's doing is technically forbidden. Still, she shrugs without caring and says, "You know me. I hate looking like everyone else. I always have to stand out. Besides, everyone already thinks I'm mentally unstable and an illegitimate child anyway, so what difference does it make now?" He softly tells her not to talk about herself like that. Meanwhile, the crown prince stands alone far away from the noisy royal celebration, almost as if he's trying to escape all the formal chaos. Soon, Hyun finds him and complains nervously, saying, "One day you're seriously going to kill me from stress. You keep disappearing every few minutes and this is a royal event." But the crown prince jokes back and asks, "What? Are you afraid someone's going to assassinate me or something?" Hyun sighs dramatically and replies, "No, I'm afraid I'll die from worrying about you first." Then the crown prince suddenly asks Hyun why he still hasn't gotten married. Teasing him, he says that half the girls inside the palace are already dying over him, while he himself seems close to getting married soon. Shocked, Hyun asks if he's serious. The crown prince confirms it, explaining that since his brother's wife wants him married, it will probably happen very soon. And once he leaves the palace after marriage, all the responsibilities of managing royal affairs will fall entirely on Hyun's shoulders. Hearing that, Hyun panics and immediately says he could never handle all of that alone and that the prince absolutely has to stay. So the crown prince cleverly tells him that's exactly why he needs Hyun to oppose the marriage proposal when the royal council discusses it later. At the same time, Seong wanders around the palace searching for a phone signal because she urgently needs to make a call. But suddenly, the crown prince himself appears in front of her. She's startled while he calmly asks for her name. Embarrassed by the awkward situation, she simply apologizes instead of answering. But he repeats the question again, and this time she finally introduces herself as Xiong and explains that she isn't a palace employee. Immediately, he asks suspiciously, "If you don't work here, then what are you doing in a restricted area where ordinary people aren't allowed?" Then he warns her that he'll count to 3 and pretend he never saw her trespassing there. But just as he starts counting, a massive explosion suddenly echoes through the palace. The crown prince immediately orders Seong to stay where she is before rushing toward the source of the sound. There, he discovers a huge fire spreading rapidly through the palace grounds. The terrifying sight instantly triggers painful memories from his past because his older brother died in a similar fire years ago. Hyun quickly rushes over to check if he's all right, but before anything else happens, the crown prince's sister-in-law storms in and slaps him across the face. Furious and emotional, she accuses him of causing another tragedy, just like the one that killed his brother. But then her son arrives, and her entire focus shifts toward making sure he's safe. Meanwhile, Hyun orders the palace staff to completely silence the incident. Thankfully, no one died this time, unlike the tragic fire from 3 years earlier that took the life of the former crown prince. That night, he brought her to the palace, but of course the reporters had already arrived before them. The two of them refused to answer any questions directly, instead giving subtle hints through their actions. They walked in while holding hands tightly, making sure everyone saw them together. As soon as they entered, one of the maids informed Yam that Rani wanted to meet him immediately. He tried to postpone it until the next day, but the maid explained that Rani had been waiting for him for hours and had even refused to eat. Before leaving, Yam gently moved closer to Shung, fixed her hair, and told her to take care of herself until he returned. He did it on purpose so the rumors around them would spread even faster, because in a palace like this, no secret ever stays hidden. Meanwhile, Rani confronted Yam about the scandal surrounding him and Shung. She warned him that the family's reputation was at stake and demanded that he publicly deny the rumors and apologize. But Yam calmly shocked her by admitting that the rumors were true. He revealed that he and Seung were actually planning to get married. Rani was finally relieved after hearing that. Later, Yam became furious at Hyun for leaving Seung alone in the palace, worried that someone might try to hurt her. He rushed to check on her and found her sitting with the little king, feeding him ramen. This time, it was real ramen, not a misunderstanding. The child had confessed that he couldn't sleep because of terrible nightmares, so Seung lovingly assumed he might simply be hungry and prepared food for him. But Yam immediately scolded her, warning her not to interfere in matters related to the young king because he wasn't used to that kind of food and could get sick. If anything happened, his mother would never stay silent. Seung playfully grabbed Yam by the hair and complained that it was just a bowl of ramen. Yam then told her that Rani still didn't approve of her. Seung jokingly asked if Rani had insulted her or bullied her while he stood there doing nothing. Then she suddenly cornered him with a serious question. If he ever had to choose between her and his family, who would he pick? Before he could answer, she angrily flipped the table, convinced he would obviously choose his family. But Yam moved closer, pinned her gently against the desk, and whispered that he would choose her instead. Of course, he claimed he was only acting romantic to strengthen the fake marriage rumors, so nobody would discover their relationship was actually fake. Soon after, Yam announced to the servants that Seung would be sleeping in his room. The maids were horrified because such behavior completely broke palace rules and traditions, but Yam made it clear that he didn't care. Shung even requested soft cotton pajamas because her skin was sensitive, while the poor maid looked ready to pull her hair out from dealing with these two dramatic teenagers. The two eventually lay on the same bed, separated only by a wall of pillows. Yam suggested she sleep on the couch because it would be more comfortable, but Seung stubbornly refused and stayed beside him. What followed was a ridiculous blanket war where each of them kept pulling the blanket to their own side. Since Yam was stronger, he accidentally dragged both Seung and the blanket toward him, causing her to crash into his chest. They spent the entire night like that, making enough noise for the servants outside the room to completely misunderstand what was happening inside. The next morning, Yam woke up late with messy hair, and Hyun yelled at him because he was supposed to be working like Seung, who had already gone straight to work as soon as she woke up. At the company, Seung once again became the center of attention because everyone noticed she was still wearing the same clothes from the previous day. Instead of hiding it, she boldly told her assistant to spread the news that she never even went home. Naturally, everyone assumed she had spent the night with the prince. Seung happily scrolled through the internet comments because she was still the #1 trending topic, and her makeup sales had skyrocketed. Girls everywhere were buying her products, hoping to discover the secret behind her beauty and maybe even attract princes themselves. Suddenly, the Prime Minister arrived and asked to speak with Seung privately. Her assistant stormed out angrily, while the female employees couldn't stop staring at him and flirting because handsome men apparently kept appearing around them every day. Everyone was shocked to see him there since he rarely ever left his office. The Prime Minister came to ask Seung if she truly intended to marry Yam, considering they had only known each other for a short time. Seung confidently answered that she genuinely wanted to marry the prince and spend the rest of her life with him. She even asked the Prime Minister to support their relationship because his approval would be very important for the wedding. On the other side, Yam learned that Rani was sick. meaning the wedding would have to be postponed until she recovered. Around that moment, Shung called him to ask whether Ronnie was actually ill or just pretending again, but she couldn't finish the conversation because a group of high school girls suddenly attacked her by throwing eggs and insulting her. They accused her of stealing the prince away. Unfortunately for them, they had underestimated Seung completely. She fearlessly scolded all of them, making them stand silently in front of her. She warned that she could easily call the police and have them arrested, but decided to spare them for the sake of their parents. Then she ordered them to go home, study, and stop wasting time on childish gossip. When Seung finally returned home, she was surprised to find her father waiting for her. She assumed he had come to question her about the scandal with the prince, but instead he coldly accused her of creating the entire situation herself just to become trending online. He reminded her that today was the anniversary of her mother's death, and suddenly the story shifted into the painful past. Years ago, Shung's mother had abandoned her outside her father's house, and one of the servants brought the little girl inside. Her father's gentle wife treated Sung kindly because she thought the child was simply lost. But little Shung suddenly pointed at the man and innocently announced, "That man is my father." The woman was so shocked that she collapsed immediately and died on the spot. Since that moment, Shung's father had never been able to love her because he blamed her for the death of the woman he cherished most. Seung spent her entire life desperately trying to earn his affection. She studied hard and always ranked first in school, hoping he would finally feel proud of her, but he never cared. She begged him for toys and gifts like the ones he gave her younger brother, yet he always refused. Even after growing up, taking control of companies and increasing their profits, she still tried to impress him. She even asked him to change his will and leave the businesses to her instead of her useless brother, who would ruin everything. But her father rejected her once again, calling her greedy and obsessed with money. He declared that he intended to disown her and leave everything to his son. Seung coldly warned him that such a thing would never happen because she might destroy her brother if he ever tried to take everything from her. After her father left, Seung sat alone, completely broken and lost in sadness, until Yam finally called to check on her, but Seung hid her emotions and simply told him she was busy and would talk to him tomorrow instead. Just 2 seconds later, someone started knocking on Seung's door. Already irritated and exhausted, she angrily grabbed a baseball bat, thinking it was another annoying person disturbing her peace. But the moment she opened the door, she froze in shock. Standing there was the sweet and caring Diane, carrying dinner in his hands because he came to check on her himself. Shung couldn't believe it. How did the mighty prince manage to escape all the guards and security downstairs just to see her? After they finished eating together, Diane noticed something strange and asked if she was truly depressed because, honestly, she was eating like the happiest person alive. Shung explained that people online had been attacking her non-stop. She told him that successful people were always targeted, that her father wanted to disown her, and that even fangirls had attacked her earlier that day. The moment Diane heard that, his expression changed completely. He immediately asked if she was hurt or injured, clearly worried about her for real. That concern pushed him to make a sudden decision. He told her to pack her things because he was taking her with him to the private residence where he lived alone, far away from the palace. The servants were absolutely shocked the moment they saw Seung arriving there. To make the rumors even more believable, she confidently grabbed Diane's arm, and when she realized the servants were still suspicious, she shamelessly jumped onto his shoulder. Of course, Diane secretly loved every second of it. A few minutes later, he called her room to ask whether she felt comfortable in her new place. Shung excitedly told him she still couldn't believe she was living in such a luxurious royal house and felt like she had entered a historical drama. She then ran to his office after learning he was working. But after sitting with him for a while, she quickly became bored with all the royal business talk and changed the subject completely. She asked him whether they would continue living there after marriage because she was an independent woman who loved noisy, energetic city life, while this place felt way too calm and peaceful for her liking. Diane teasingly told her to stay quiet for once, but Sung cornered him with another question about why he had agreed to marry her in the first place. That was when the shocking truth came out. Diane admitted that he had lied to her before because he was actually completely broke. The royal family was drowning in debt, and since Sung belonged to one of the richest families in the country, marrying her would help him pay the massive taxes he owed. Honestly, even princes being bankrupt now, at this point donations should be collected for the poor prince. After shamelessly confessing his financial problems, Dian immediately started flattering her, telling her she was beautiful in addition to being rich. Deep down, he believed she could become his greatest supporter because he wanted to become king while everyone around him opposed him. The next day, Rani was preparing herself elegantly for an important royal ceremony at the palace when a mysterious message suddenly arrived and completely changed her mood. She immediately informed the servants that she would not attend the event anymore. Only moments later, officers stormed into the prince's residence and entered Seong's room to search it. It turned out to be an investigation team sent personally by Rani to uncover who caused the fire during the king's birthday celebration. The investigators began collecting all of Seong's belongings, both at the residence and at her company, because they suspected her involvement. Seong managed to slip away into the bathroom and desperately tried calling Yan for help, but he never answered because, according to the servants, he always left his phone during royal ceremonies. Panicking, she contacted her assistant and begged her to go inform him. However, the servants explained that ordinary citizens could not enter the palace without official permission. Seong nearly pulled her hair out in frustration, but only seconds later, she transformed herself completely. Wearing her sunglasses and elegant outfit like a fearless queen, she walked beside the officers acting calm and unbothered, while internally she was screaming in terror. The servants were literally praying for her safety. Meanwhile, her loyal assistant managed to reach the palace entrance carrying Yan's royal badge, a badge he had secretly given Seong earlier so she could enter the palace whenever necessary. Thanks to it, they successfully got inside. Reaching Yan was difficult, but the assistant refused to give up. She disguised herself as palace staff, stood beside Hyun, and informed him about the disaster. The moment Yan heard the news, he rushed toward Seong just before the interrogation started. Rani immediately accused Seong of being the prime suspect. She claimed Seong's clothing during the party was suspicious, her behavior was even stranger, and she had disappeared for a while before entering a restricted area. But Yan instantly turned the entire accusation around by pointing out that every single thing Rani mentioned could apply to him as well, technically making him a suspect too. Suddenly, Seong's loyal assistant secretly kicked her leg, causing Seong to dramatically fake fainting from exhaustion. The caring prince instantly caught her in his strong arms and announced that if anyone wanted to question her, they could do it at his private residence instead. The moment he carried her into his room, though, he lightly smacked her head and told her to stop acting because she was clearly an excellent actress. Seong nervously asked if she was actually going to be arrested and thrown into prison. Yan looked confused and asked if she was really scared. She stubbornly denied it, joking that she was totally used to prisons and interrogations and definitely wasn't some delicate rich girl. Still, she immediately began planning to hire an entire team of lawyers just to protect herself. Then she realized something important. This entire scandal was actually benefiting them because it exposed to everyone how obviously Rani was targeting her personally. Yan, still innocent and naive, insisted nobody was paying much attention anyway. Seong practically looked at him like he was crazy because the news had already spread through the palace at lightning speed. Everyone was adding extra drama and rumors to make the situation even bigger. Meanwhile, Rani was losing her mind because her plan had completely backfired. Instead of destroying them, the scandal made the public love Seong and Yan even more. To keep the rumors alive, Yan personally escorted Seong to her car. Seong secretly hoped he would come with her, but he nervously explained that Hyun might kill him because he still had mountains of work waiting for him. Then, like the perfect gentleman, he personally opened the car door for her. Seriously, why don't men like this exist everywhere? Even the maid standing nearby looked completely obsessed with their relationship. Honestly, not just her. Everyone watching was falling for them too. When Seong returned to the residence, the servants welcomed her excitedly and even danced around her. That night, Seong couldn't stop thinking about Yan, especially after he carried her in his arms earlier. Suddenly, he called her and gently asked whether she had eaten dinner. Seong immediately said she planned to skip food so she could lose weight, look weak, and make people sympathize with her even more like the poor victim. Yan then informed her that starting tomorrow, he would assign personal guards to protect her. Seung was shocked because royal protection like that was usually only allowed after marriage. Wanting to repay his kindness somehow, she went all the way to the palace and kept calling him non-stop until he finally came outside to see her. Honestly, these weren't the actions of royal adults anymore. They were acting exactly like two teenagers in love. Yan stood there tall and broad with his muscular figure, while Seung suddenly became shy and tiny in front of him. She even stood on two chairs just to reduce the massive height difference between them, a difference that secretly made everyone around them scream internally. The only thing making the situation even more thrilling was the fact that they could get caught together at any second. The rumors surrounding Seung and Yam kept growing bigger and bigger. One evening, Seung brought him tea and medicine specially prepared to help him sleep. Then she jokingly asked whether she deserved the title of the caring future wife or not. Yam suddenly reached out, placed his hand gently on her cheek, and slowly leaned closer. No, even closer than that. For a second, it felt like the entire world stopped. But after the moment passed, Yam quickly claimed he only did it because someone nearby was secretly taking pictures of them. Still, Seung clearly enjoyed what happened because she immediately told him to get ready so the photographers could capture them from another angle too. This time, however, the prince became shy and refused, while our brave prince suddenly retreated in embarrassment. The next morning, though, he realized his efforts hadn't gone to waste at all when he overheard the servants gossiping excitedly about the kiss from the previous night. Trying to act dignified, he scolded them for spreading rumors, but deep inside he was secretly happy. Unfortunately, he didn't have much time to enjoy it because he was called into an emergency meeting with all the ministers to discuss the massive scandal surrounding him and Seung. The situation had completely spiraled out of control. The palace still hadn't officially announced whether they were dating or engaged, so Yam boldly declared that he intended to marry her. That only made things worse. The ministers immediately objected because Seung was a commoner, and even worse in their eyes, an illegitimate daughter. Basically a walking scandal for the royal family. The Prime Minister stepped in to calm the situation and proposed a temporary solution. He suggested that the palace publicly announce that the two were simply dating, without mentioning marriage yet, until they could see how the scandal developed. During the meeting, it became obvious that one particular minister absolutely hated Seung. The moment he learned she was staying at the prince's residence, he demanded she be thrown out immediately, but Yam firmly refused. He explained that people had already attacked and assaulted her, and his residence was the only place where she could safely stay. Then he coldly added, "If anything happens to my future wife, will any of you take responsibility?" Once again, the Prime Minister had to intervene and suggested a compromise. Yam should move back into the main palace while Seung stayed alone in the smaller residence because, according to royal etiquette, unmarried couples shouldn't live together. Truly, the guardians of morality had arrived. After the meeting ended, the evil minister secretly met with Rani, and it was revealed that she was the one manipulating him behind the scenes to get rid of Seung. However, he warned her to calm down because her constant attacks were only making the public sympathize with Seung more and more. Instead of hating Seung, people now viewed her as the victim, and public opinion had completely shifted to her side. At that exact moment, Seung sat watching the news as the palace spokesperson officially announced her relationship with Yam to the entire country. But while confirming they were dating, the spokesperson still insulted her indirectly, implying that a prince like Yam could never seriously fall for a girl like her. Naturally, Seung became furious. When Yam arrived, she stormed straight into his office and began criticizing the photos the media used for them. According to Seung, the biggest problem wasn't the scandal itself, it was the terrible camera angles. She passionately explained that managing public image, controversy, and publicity was her area of expertise. Meanwhile, Yam wasn't paying attention at all because he was completely lost in thoughts about the kiss from the previous night. His heart practically fluttered every time he remembered it. Suddenly, Seung moved closer, grabbed his face with both hands, and declared that they needed to get married quickly so they could also divorce quickly before the endless rumors destroyed them both. Then she leaned close to him again, even closer than before, and casually asked if he was free that day. Yam immediately became nervous because he clearly knew she was planning something dangerous. The two prepared to go out together, and one of the maids personally helped Seung choose an outfit. Naturally, Shung expected Yam to lose his mind the moment he saw her, maybe praising her beauty dramatically like a hero in a romance drama. Instead, the prince looked at her outfit and brutally said it looked awful, joking that she looked like a little girl pretending to be in love. Furious, Shung stormed off to change clothes by herself and eventually returned wearing a casual outfit instead. This time, everyone fell silent from pure shock because she looked stunning. Yam quietly walked beside her and extended his hand for her to hold. Shung happily grabbed it like she had just won the lottery. Honestly, at that point she needed to calm down before she stole every handsome man left in the world. Throughout the trip, Shung kept staring at herself in the mirror and complimenting her own beauty non-stop like she was her own biggest fan. Then Hyum suddenly commented that the clothes looked outdated. Seung instantly misunderstood and thought he meant Yam's suit, so she tried fixing his outfit. But Hyum corrected her immediately and clarified that he meant her outfit looked terrible. Seung snapped at him to stay quiet before immediately returning to praising herself again anyway. Their destination turned out to be a baseball stadium packed with fans from all over the country. Seung excitedly bought matching couple shirts for herself and Yam, asking him to wear one. But Yam explained that princes weren't allowed to publicly support specific sports teams. Seung became disappointed, feeling like all her effort was wasted, so she angrily threw one of the shirts at Hyun instead and ordered him to wear it because she wasn't about to waste money. But Yam instantly snatched it back in jealousy, refusing to let anyone else wear the matching shirt. The moment they entered the stadium, Seung unexpectedly ran into her brother and his wife. Her brother was about to insult her like usual, but the second he noticed the prince standing beside her, his entire personality changed. Suddenly, he transformed into the sweetest brother alive, praising Seung and calling her a precious jewel while congratulating Yam for being lucky enough to have her. Yam clearly understood that the loving sibling relationship was completely fake. Soon after, everyone's attention shifted toward the Prime Minister, who was attending the game because he was one of the club's biggest supporters. He was invited to throw the opening pitch and, of course, successfully threw it perfectly because, honestly, if the Prime Minister failed publicly, who exactly was supposed to succeed? Shung cheered louder than anyone else in the stadium, while Yam stood behind her looking jealous the entire time. Later, during a break, the Prime Minister came to greet them and wanted to sit beside them. Shung warmly welcomed him, but disaster struck when the cameras suddenly focused on their section. The second the cameramen spotted the prince and his girlfriend, they blasted their faces across the giant stadium screens. The audience immediately began screaming for them to act like a real couple live on camera. At that point, things had officially reached maximum chaos. Even the commentators started shouting about them through the microphones while the crowd cheered wildly. Yam panicked and whispered that this kind of behavior couldn't happen publicly because of royal reputation. But honestly, reputation? The entire country already knew everything. Seung cleverly typed a message onto the stadium screen explaining that public displays like that weren't allowed because they needed to respect royal rules and traditions. When the game ended and they left the stadium, huge crowds waited outside just to greet them. Seung instantly slipped into future First Lady mode, smiling and waving elegantly to the people. Then, out of nowhere, the Prime Minister invited her to dinner. Seung immediately accepted and practically abandoned Yam in 2 seconds, telling him to go home without her. But there was absolutely no chance Yam would leave her alone with another man. He stubbornly insisted that if they arrived together, they would leave together too. So he followed them to dinner and awkwardly sat there watching them eat because princes apparently weren't allowed to casually eat outside the palace. Seeing him like that made Seung feel bad for him. She asked what he was actually allowed to do in life with so many restrictions surrounding him. Her question made Yam remember his childhood, when he and his brother used to play happily like normal children until their father violently punished them because such behavior was considered improper for royal sons. Back in the present, Yam silently hid all those painful memories in his heart while gently placing food onto Seung's plate and telling her to eat properly, because once she married him, she would lose her freedom too. When Seung arrived at work, she discovered a mountain of unfinished tasks waiting for her. Her assistant joked that she had clearly been relaxing too much lately. Then, without warning, the assistant started interrogating her about the prince's kiss and asked how it felt. Seung instantly became shy, accidentally spilling her tea everywhere before pretending she didn't care because she wasn't some immature teenager anymore. But the assistant bluntly told her she was completely hopeless when it came to relationships because she had spent her entire life single. After work, the two went shopping together, and the assistant asked about Seung's famous red sports car, since it had mysteriously disappeared for days. She guessed that the prince must have ordered Seung not to drive it anymore. Seung immediately denied it proudly, insisting she would never blindly obey him anyway. Then she revealed that one of Yam's obsessive fangirls had damaged the car, so it was currently being repaired at the workshop. That night, Seung tried sneaking back into the residence quietly, but the terrifying maid was already waiting for her, like a final boss. She ordered Seung to come over immediately and began forcing her through strict royal etiquette training, teaching her how to walk properly as if she were training a soldier in the military. But Seung, being Seung, managed to completely turn the situation upside down. Instead of obeying, she started teaching the maid workout exercises because the poor woman's back was hurting. The moment Yam arrived home, Seung instantly ran toward him and threw herself into his arms, hugging him tightly while begging him not to leave her alone with the maid again. Yam tried calming her down because all the servants were watching them, but Seung shamelessly told him to let everyone stare because she didn't care anymore. She dramatically whispered that the terrifying mother of luxury was going to destroy her life. The maid then shouted at Yam, asking why he was even there and telling him to leave quickly because everyone planned to sleep early. Yam calmly replied that he had every right to be there since his beloved was staying in the palace. He eventually managed to send the maid away, but she absolutely refused to give up. The next morning, she returned early, carrying a stick in her hand like a strict school teacher preparing for war. This time, she started explaining royal funeral traditions to Seung, basically introducing her to the tragic destiny awaiting people in that royal family. She told her about all the deaths surrounding Yam's family, starting with his mother's death when he was still young, then his father, and finally his brother. Since then, Yam had never emotionally recovered. Seung suddenly became emotional after hearing everything. She immediately pulled out tissues and started crying, wondering how Yam had survived carrying all that pain alone for so many years. Seeing Seung in tears, even the maid softened slightly and decided to postpone the lesson, allowing Seung to run back to her room while pretending she was too emotionally overwhelmed to continue. But instead of resting, Seung immediately called Yam. Unfortunately, he was busy sitting with Rani, who was still pretending to be sick. Rani told him she had brought another woman to assist him during the royal dinner scheduled for the next day. Yam instantly understood the hidden meaning behind her words. Politely clearing his throat, he gently told Rani that she seemed exhausted lately and needed to take better care of herself. He insisted she rest properly and stop worrying about the royal dinner because he could attend alone anyway. Afterward, Yam finally answered Seung's call, but he sounded irritated and snapped that he was busy. Seung tried desperately not to lose her temper and insult him. Instead, she calmly told him that she intended to stand beside him no matter what because husband and wife were supposed to become one united team. She claimed it was simply her duty toward him and definitely not because she was secretly in love with him or obsessed with him. Yam immediately hung up in her face before she could continue embarrassing herself. Meanwhile, at the Royal Academy, the young king had just finished his lessons when the Prime Minister appeared in front of him. He informed the child that he wouldn't be able to tutor him during the weekend because he was too busy. The king became unbelievably happy, clearly celebrating the cancellation of extra lessons, but the Prime Minister quickly crushed his joy by announcing that they would simply continue the lesson immediately instead. He took the young king with him in the car, and during the ride, the child sadly watched other children playing freely outside, wishing he could join them like a normal kid. Back at the palace, Seung continued suffering through etiquette lessons, while the maid constantly screamed at her whenever she made even the smallest mistake. Luckily, the young king arrived at the residence, and Seung cleverly used his arrival to escape. She deliberately dropped something while bowing, then quickly ran to sit beside him. Seung assumed he had skipped school again, but the king explained that he actually came to visit his uncle and play with him. Since Yam wasn't there, Seung decided to take over the mission herself. Soon everyone started playing games together, all trying to cheer the lonely child up. Even the Prime Minister joined in and played childish games with them, which honestly made the kingdom look surprisingly fun to live in. Eventually, the Prime Minister challenged Seung to a game and managed to beat her. As the winner, he demanded she fulfill her promise and grant him any wish he wanted. Unfortunately, the young king's eyes had already locked onto Seung's bright red sports car. Ever since he first saw it during his birthday celebration, he had become obsessed with it because the car looked like it had wings. It was also the only car of its kind in the entire kingdom. The maid immediately objected, warning that allowing the king near such a dangerous car could put him at risk, but the child dramatically threw himself onto the ground and started crying loudly, insisting that since he was the king, everyone should obey his orders. Unable to watch him cry anymore, Seung finally gave in and agreed to drive him back to the palace herself. The maid nervously instructed her to drive slowly and stay on the phone with them the entire time because the palace guards would follow closely behind in case anything happened. At first, the king was thrilled by the ride, but after a while he complained that the car felt too slow and said driving it felt like riding a turtle. He wanted to experience the wings of the car properly, so he begged Seung to drive faster. Sadly, Seung listened to him. But the moment she increased the speed, she realized something was horribly wrong. The brakes weren't working. The car began accelerating uncontrollably, and Seung completely lost control. Panicking, she ordered the king to fasten his seatbelt and close the windows immediately. Desperately trying to stop the car, she scraped it against the bridge rails to create friction and slow it down. But despite all her efforts, disaster struck. The car crashed violently into another vehicle. The shocking part is that the other car belongs to Yan. It turns out he sacrificed himself to save them. When he steps out of the car, blood is running down his head, while Seung loses consciousness completely. Everyone rushes to the hospital, and the moment Rani hears the news, she panics and runs there in shock. After making sure her son is alive, she immediately demands answers. The Prime Minister tries to calm her down, insisting it was only a road accident, carefully avoiding mentioning Seung at all. But Rani notices his hesitation and realizes Yan had been with Seung in the car. To her, that's unforgivable negligence, and she instantly wants to expose Seung and accuse her of trying to kill her son. Still, the Prime Minister stops her because a scandal like this could destroy the reputation of the royal family before they even know the full truth. A little later, the king regains consciousness and secretly goes to Seung's hospital room. At that moment, it becomes obvious he has already fallen for her. During the accident, she was terrified for him, holding his hand and trying to calm him down, so now he gently takes her hand in return. And because our director clearly loves dramatic timing, Seung suddenly wakes up while he's sitting there. Yan immediately breaks down in guilt, blaming himself for everything that happened to her, but she comforts him instead. Then she suddenly remembers there had been a third person with them, Yam, and quickly asks about him. Yan explains that his uncle is incredibly strong. He already underwent shoulder surgery and didn't even cry once. Hearing that, Seung panics and rushes straight to his room, yelling at him for risking his life like that. Even the assistant tries telling her to calm down because he just came out of surgery, but she completely shuts him down, making the poor guy run away in fear. Seung sits beside Yan, carefully checking his face, upset that such a handsome face now has a scar beneath the eye. Taking advantage of her concern, Yan softly asks how she's doing and even reaches toward her forehead to check her injuries too. Honestly, the two of them are clearly looking for excuses to get closer. Seung becomes shy and pulls away, warning him never to risk his life for her again. If he truly loved her, he wouldn't do something so reckless. Yan only smiles faintly to himself, silently admitting in his heart that he really has fallen in love with her. The next day, Seung's assistant storms in to scold her, but instead of worrying about the accident, she's more upset about the company's stocks crashing after the news leaked online. Rumors spread everywhere claiming Seung had been driving under the influence of alcohol. To make things worse, her father demands she come home the moment she leaves the hospital. Seung is hurt because somehow he already knows about the accident, yet neither he nor her brother bothered to visit her even once. She explains to her assistant that she wasn't drunk at all. The brakes had failed. The assistant suggests releasing the car's camera footage to prove her innocence, but Seung refuses immediately because the king had been with her. If footage like that leaked, it could destroy him, and she also doesn't want the prince dragged through ugly public rumors. Unfortunately, the Prime Minister overhears their conversation and sends the assistant away so he can speak with Seung privately. Forced into a corner, she confesses the truth. The only reason she agreed to marry the prince was because of social status and political benefits. Hearing that, the Prime Minister suddenly tells her to marry him instead. The scene cuts before revealing her response. After leaving the hospital, Seung goes looking for Yan to check on him, only to discover his room completely empty. She keeps calling him, but he refuses to answer. Then the assistant reveals something horrifying. Yan had visited Seung earlier and was standing outside when she was talking with the Prime Minister. Realizing he may have heard everything, Seung completely loses it. She rushes straight to the palace, but the moment she arrives, she's hit with another shock. Yan threw all her belongings outside and ordered the servants not to let her in. Humiliated, she gathers her dignity and walks away, swearing revenge. Even afterward, Yan ignores all her calls. It becomes clear he truly did hear her conversation with the Prime Minister, though he left before hearing her answer. Desperate, Seung sends him a provocative message telling him that if he has something to say, he should say it to her face instead of abandoning her like this. The following day, Seung arrives looking stunning as always, dressed in an outfit so beautiful it practically makes everyone want to rob the wardrobe. On the way, she runs into Rani, who secretly enjoys seeing her suffer, though Seung doesn't notice the hidden mockery. When she finally meets Yan, he reveals someone had tampered with her car brakes and they are currently searching for the culprit. Seung immediately asks whether Rani was the one who forced him to throw her out, but Yan coldly answers that he simply doesn't want to marry her anymore. Those words hit Seung like a truck. As if things couldn't get worse, Seung later confronts her father and discovers her own brother spread the rumor that she had been driving drunk just to steal the company shares from her. Furious, she gives them both a brutal lesson that should have awakened their dead consciences, but neither of them seems affected at all. Meanwhile, Yan's assistant asks why he treated Seung so cruelly. Yan drifts into painful memories from his childhood and reveals the real reason. His mother died in front of him in a car accident when he was young, leaving him traumatized ever since. So when he saw Seung in that same situation, he completely lost control and desperately tried to save her. But now he believes that as long as she stays near him in the palace, she'll continue being targeted by dangerous enemies. In the end, he pushed her away because he wants to protect her from the palace and all its dark conspiracies. The palace then begins preparing for a grand high society banquet. Rani personally selects the guests one by one, inviting only the people closest to her, while the Prime Minister secretly suspects that one of those attendees might actually be the criminal behind the brake sabotage. Seung is shocked when Yan's assistant suddenly delivers her an official invitation from the princess herself. She can't believe it. They literally broke up yesterday. The assistant explains Yan wants everyone to see that even if their engagement ended, their relationship would remain respectful and dignified. Secretly, though, Yan's true goal is to reassure her and elevate her social standing, because not everyone gets invited to a royal event like this. He even prepared her outfit and arranged everything perfectly, but Seung stubbornly refuses to attend. Hearing that rejection hits Yan like lightning. He keeps calling and begging her to meet him, but she refuses every single time. Finally, he sends her a message using her own words against her. If she has something to say, she should stop running away and tell him directly. The next day, when she finally meets him, she angrily asks how he can demand she come while also breaking off the engagement at the same time. Yan explains he only did it to protect her, but Seung calls him a coward. Then, in a dramatic moment, she grabs an arrow and aims it toward the cat he loves dearly. Yan instantly catches the arrow with his hand to protect the cat, injuring himself in the process. Seung tears off her scarf and wraps it around his bleeding hand while telling him that everyone has problems, but running away from them is not the answer. People should face their struggles and protect the ones they love instead of abandoning them. At the company, Seung's employees continue investigating the accident until they finally uncover a shocking clue. The criminal used her brother's credit card. Seung gathers all the evidence and directly confronts her brother, who immediately starts swearing he's innocent and had nothing to do with it. Seung immediately tells her brother to prepare evidence proving his innocence before the police discover everything and arrest him. Then her mind drifts back to the moment in the hospital when the Prime Minister proposed to her. At the time, she had explained that her marriage to Yan was fake because there were no real feelings between them, meaning they would eventually separate. But the Prime Minister was different to her, and she admitted she didn't want to lose him. Honestly, the two men are melting hearts left and right. A little later, Yam calls Seung and begs her to attend the royal banquet. He keeps persuading her until she finally agrees. The next day, the assistant comes to the company to teach her the strict etiquette rules of the event. The banquet is divided by social classes, with different seating areas, treatment, and even food depending on status. Since Sung is considered an illegitimate child and also a commoner, she is supposed to be placed in the lowest rank. Hearing that makes Sung furious, wondering if they invited her only to humiliate her. Still, despite her anger, she spends the entire night studying the rules and preparing herself so she won't lose control in front of them. Meanwhile, her brother is completely panicking because the criminal who used his credit card has suddenly died, meaning the investigation has become even more complicated. Now nobody can trace what really happened anymore. At the palace, the banquet finally begins, and the noblewomen gather together gossiping viciously about Seung because she still hasn't arrived. Whenever Rani walks past them, they instantly fall silent, expecting her to get offended, but instead she casually tells them to continue gossiping all they want. She's completely convinced Sung won't show up, but then Sung arrives and completely steals everyone's attention. Reporters immediately begin shouting her name as she walks in dressed in an elegant white outfit, glowing like a star. She purposely refuses to wear the clothes Yan had prepared for her because she wants to show everyone that she's different and impossible to control. Rani is left speechless. Since Sung is from the common people, technically she isn't obligated to follow the royal dress code. Furious, Rani decides to teach her a lesson by taking her on a long walk through the palace gardens under the blazing summer heat. Rani is the only one carrying an umbrella, while all the women walk behind her according to rank, and, of course, Sung is forced to walk last. When Sung starts struggling from the heat, Rani keeps praising Summer in the most fake and passive-aggressive way possible, like one of those people who hates winter and is obsessed with hot weather just to annoy everyone else. But just when things become unbearable, the heroic prince suddenly appears. Honestly, his beauty should be illegal. His elegance was a perfect 1,000,000 out of 10. He walks directly beside Seung, lets her hold his arm, and proudly escorts her through the palace while every woman there burns with jealousy. Even we would probably be jealous at that point. Yan softly tells her not to bow to anyone as long as she's standing beside him, not even to Rani herself. Yan then takes Seung inside and orders the servants to prepare a custom dress for her while he waits outside impatiently. Every few minutes he keeps calling her name, asking if she's ready yet, and Seung eventually yells back that she only needs 5 more minutes. The servants are completely shocked by how romantic and playful their relationship looks, while Yan slowly loses his sanity because from afternoon until evening she keeps repeating the same sentence, 5 more minutes. Clearly, he has now discovered the true meaning of those famous 5 minutes. The moment Seung finally steps out, Yan is completely stunned by her beauty. She looks absolutely breathtaking, like the moon itself. At the same time, the little king is getting dressed up too and also looks adorable, though the maid tries stopping him because his mother will scold him. But he insists on attending because his uncle personally asked him to. Meanwhile, Rani dresses elegantly as well and waits for the prime minister to escort her downstairs because it would look improper for her to walk in alone. Honestly, from my perspective, the two of them actually look perfect together, even if nobody dares to say it out loud. Then suddenly Yan and Seung enter together and completely outshine everyone else in the room. It's like they're literally glowing in the darkness. Everyone becomes mesmerized by their appearance, saying they look as though they stepped straight out of a romantic novel. The two begin dancing together while Rani watches calmly, believing this will probably be the last time she ever sees Seung by Yan's side. She even tells the prime minister that the couple is already separated and that Yan only invited Seung out of pity so she wouldn't create drama afterward with heartbreak songs and tears. But Rani clearly underestimated Yan. In the middle of the celebration, he suddenly flips the entire situation upside down. Right there in front of everyone, he drops to one knee. A servant brings out his mother's precious ring, and Yan proposes to Seung in front of the entire royal gathering. Everyone, including Seung herself, is completely shocked. Before she can even process what's happening, fireworks explode across the sky, creating the most romantic atmosphere imaginable. And of course, she agrees. Honestly, who could reject a proposal like that? If I were in her place, I'd probably stare at that beautiful ring for the rest of my life too. Afterward, the couple walks hand in hand toward the little king and waits for his approval. Rani desperately signals to him not to say anything, and for a second the poor child looks terrified of her, but then he bravely congratulates his uncle and his future aunt. Honestly, if they ever have children, they should probably bring them around him all the time because he's too adorable. Meanwhile, Rani is practically losing her mind. She rushes to the Prime Minister and demands he reject the marriage, but he calmly tells her it's impossible now that the king himself has already approved it. Trying to hide her rage, Rani forces herself to congratulate Jan and even dances with him while secretly glaring at him the entire time. She accuses him of being far more cunning than she expected, and Jan smugly replies that she taught him everything he knows. He already knows that his brother wrote a will giving up the throne for him, but Rani secretly destroyed it. The moment he hints at that truth, her face completely changes colors in shock. Meanwhile, Seung happily shows off the engagement ring to the Prime Minister and jokingly asks if he isn't going to congratulate her. Instead, he pulls her into a dance. During the dance, Seung quietly admits that she needs him beside her because he's the only person who has always supported her, and she can't imagine losing him. The Prime Minister promises he will never abandon her. Watching them from afar, Rani notices something strange in the way they look at each other. After the banquet, Jan and Seung stand together on a bridge while Seung admires the ring with sparkling eyes. Jan jokingly tells her to take care of it because it's practically a national treasure and reminds her she'll have to return it after their divorce someday. Seung instantly gets annoyed and tells him to take it back right now if he's going to keep talking like that. Jan then reveals that the ring originally belonged to his mother, and he becomes emotional remembering her. Seung gently tells him that his mother must have truly loved him to leave him something so precious, especially because, according to royal tradition, the ring should have gone to his older brother and then to his brother's wife. Jan explains that his mother broke tradition for him, which caused the former king to scold her harshly. Seung tells him to stop thinking about the past and simply enjoy the moment. As the cool night breeze surrounds them, she slowly begins realizing how deeply her feelings are growing. Jan stands beside her, completely mesmerized by her beauty, gently reaching over to move a strand of hair away from her face. When they return inside, the assistant excitedly informs them that they've become the #1 trending topic in the country. The public is obsessed with their relationship, comparing them to a real-life Disney prince and princess. Seung then tells Jan she has an important interview tomorrow and shyly asks if she can continue wearing the ring. Jan immediately agrees. The next morning, Rani secretly summons the corrupt minister who wants to cancel the wedding entirely. However, she explains they need to pretend to accept it until they uncover exactly what their enemies are planning. According to her, it's safer to keep enemies where they can be watched instead of driving them away. Meanwhile, Seung arrives at the company and finds her brother and his manipulative wife waiting for her. The woman stares greedily at the expensive ring, clearly obsessed with its value, but they didn't come to congratulate her at all. Instead, they came to ask what she plans to do after marrying the prince because, according to them, she can't continue working once she becomes royalty. Her brother arrogantly tells her she should just hand over the company to him since she won't need it anymore. Then, acting innocent, he once again insists he's being falsely accused and reminds her that the criminal is already dead, meaning no one can prove anything against him. Furious, Seung explodes at them, insults them both, and throws them out of her office. Seung begins preparing herself carefully for the interview, reviewing every possible question she might be asked. But the moment she sees the kind of sensational questions prepared for her, she's completely shocked. It's obvious the media only wants dramatic, spicy scandals so they can turn the interview into a trending disaster. The second she arrives and notices the cameras pointed at her, she keeps casually moving her hand around so the engagement ring stays visible the entire time. Honestly, she turns into exactly that friend who gets engaged and suddenly makes her whole personality about her fiancé and the ring. The host asks how her relationship with Jan first started, so Seung explains that they studied together at the same academy when they were younger, but there were never any romantic feelings between them back then. Only after meeting again as adults did a spark finally appear. She goes on talking about how Jan always stood beside her, protected her, and treated her gently because he saw her as someone delicate who could easily be hurt by harsh words. The interviewer looks completely stunned listening to her. This is the same terrifying Sung everyone used to fear, yet now she's speaking like a girl hopelessly in love. It's like that loud, intimidating friend whose entire personality suddenly softens the moment she gets engaged. Of course, Yan receives a full report about all the ridiculous romantic nonsense Sung said during the interview, and while watching it, he can't stop laughing at her. Meanwhile, after finishing the interview, Sung returns to the palace residence, where the servants welcome her like a returning queen. They practically greet her with hugs, telling her they always knew she'd come back. But while they carry her luggage inside, Sung notices one maid staring suspiciously at her bags. Pretending not to notice anything, she quietly leaves. Later, it's revealed that the maid is actually Rani's spy. Yan had already warned Sung about her because he discovered the truth long ago, but he purposely kept the maid around so he could feed false information back to Rani whenever he wanted. Now he warns Sung to stay alert. The assistant even suggests Sung should move in with her for safety. A little later, Yam calls Seung and tells her a car will pick her up the next day so they can begin preparing the wedding ceremony. When she arrives at the palace, the Prime Minister happens to arrive at the exact same time, so they walk in together. Yam is sitting there reading calmly, but the second he notices Seung arriving, he instantly fixes his posture. However, the moment he realizes the Prime Minister came with her, his face immediately darkens, and he sits there looking irritated and jealous. After everyone else leaves, he suspiciously asks whether the two of them arrived together, but they explain they only met by coincidence at the entrance. The discussion then turns toward the wedding preparations, and the budget turns out to be unbelievably massive. When Sung hears the numbers, she almost drops her tea from shock. The Prime Minister gently hands her a handkerchief and tells her to calm down and take care of herself. Yan watches the interaction in disbelief, feeling like someone is stealing his role right in front of him. Jealous, he tells the Prime Minister to behave more formally with Seung since she will soon become his wife. The Prime Minister only laughs knowingly, clearly hinting that he already understands the truth about their fake relationship. Seung quickly explains that the Prime Minister is practically her closest confidant and that she hides nothing from him. The Prime Minister reassures Yan that he'll help them both get married and divorced successfully. But after he leaves, Yan immediately confronts Seung, demanding to know since when the Prime Minister had known their secret. Seung explains it happened by accident back at the hospital and insists she trusts him completely. Yan becomes frustrated and warns her not to trust people so easily, especially anyone connected to the palace. But Seung insists the Prime Minister is different. She even suggests that if Yan is so worried, they should create an official contract for their marriage and follow strict conditions instead. The two of them begin drafting the contract together, constantly editing the terms to suit their own preferences. They rewrite it over and over again, but one thing matters more than anything else to both of them: absolute secrecy. Just before signing the agreement, they suddenly hear that Rani is coming. Panicking, they quickly hide all the papers, stand up, and instinctively hold hands to greet her. Rani enters acting unusually warm and gentle, inviting Seung to have dinner with the family that night, but it's obvious she's planning something. The moment everyone sits down for dinner, Rani secretly pours alcohol into Seung's drink, but Seung notices immediately and drinks it without hesitation, just to prove she isn't afraid. Rani drinks alongside her and soon begins rambling emotionally, accusing Yan of killing her husband to take his place. She continues saying painful things meant to provoke him. Yan struggles desperately to control his emotions, and when Seung notices how shaken he is, she quietly grabs his hand under the table to calm him down before leading him away from the dinner. Once outside, Seung is shocked that Yan didn't fight back against Rani's accusations. Furious, she starts throwing insults toward Rani, but Yan quickly covers her mouth and silences her because the things she's saying could literally get her imprisoned. He admits he's upset and doesn't want to stay at the palace tonight, so Seung immediately tells him to come with her, and the two leave together in the car with Yan driving himself. Seung becomes nervous because they only recently survived a terrible car accident, but Yan explains that driving is one of the few freedoms he's allowed to enjoy as a prince. He says it makes him feel like he's flying through the sky. Feeling sympathy for him, Seung takes Yan to the marina. When she claps her hands, lights suddenly illuminate the entire area, creating an unbelievably romantic atmosphere. Yan stares around in shock, joking that it almost feels like she's about to propose to him instead. Seung teases him for obviously watching too many Korean dramas, but Yan casually replies that he only watches The Perfect Crown. Seung then takes him onto a private yacht and reassures him that nobody else is there because the workers already prepared everything and left. Yan immediately falls into his usual trapped prince behavior, complaining that he's forbidden from eating certain things or doing anything outside the palace. Seung laughs and literally feeds him with her own hands, telling him he's the one who once swore he could never marry a commoner, yet now he's marrying her. Yan quietly replies that she's different. He finally starts eating the food she prepared, but only seconds later he nearly throws it all up because of seasickness. Thankfully, Seung helps him recover until he feels better again. Then Seung suddenly tells him to follow her. In a scene straight out of Titanic, she stands at the edge of the yacht, pulls Yan behind her, places his hands around her waist, and stretches out her arms while telling him to live in the moment. She promises he'll finally feel like he's flying, exactly the way he always dreamed. But the wind becomes incredibly strong, and Seung loses her balance, falling directly on top of him. Embarrassed, she tries to get up, but Yan pulls her closer and tells her to stay because the seasonal winds are too dangerous tonight. When they finally returned to the palace, the two of them quietly slipped inside, but it was obvious something was wrong. The servants immediately caught them and started questioning how they had gone out alone in the middle of the night without any guards. One clever maid instantly sensed there was more to the story and quickly told the others to stay quiet. She teasingly suggested that the two of them probably just wanted to spend some romantic time together. Of course, both of them denied it at the exact same moment. Seung hurriedly explained that they only went out for a drive, but the tension between them was impossible to hide. She could barely handle Yan getting close to her anymore, even if he only wanted to say a simple word. Embarrassed and overwhelmed, she excused herself and went to bed, but sleep never came. She spent the entire night replaying what had happened between them, unable to calm her racing heart. And she was not the only one affected. Yan himself was secretly happy that their relationship had started changing. Late that night, he even came to her room and softly called for her, but Seung forced herself not to answer or open the door. The next morning, she woke up early and tried sneaking away to work before he could see her. Unfortunately, he caught her anyway. When he called her name, she became so startled she almost tripped, forcing him to rush forward to catch her. At that moment, Seung's eyes accidentally focused on his lips, and she immediately felt herself weakening again. Panicking, she pushed him away and quickly made an excuse about having important work before running off. Yan understood everything and could not stop laughing at her reaction. Later, Seung visited a church for the first time in her life. She confessed to the priest that she believed she was possessed and begged him to cast out the evil spirit inside her. She even offered to donate any amount of money to the church if he could help her. Deep down, she truly believed some strange spirit had taken control of her because of how weak she became whenever Yan got close to her. On her way out, she unexpectedly ran into the Prime Minister. He found it strange seeing her in a church, but she lied and claimed she had simply passed by coincidence. Since her car was not with her, he kindly offered to drive her home. During the ride, Yan called her to ask if she was free so they could set a date for the wedding preparations. Seung lied again, telling him she was busy with work, but Yan overheard the Prime Minister calling her name. After hanging up, she got into the car with the Prime Minister and noticed how happy he looked while driving. She asked if he enjoyed driving because his smile reminded her so much of Yan, who always looked cheerful behind the wheel. She spent the entire trip talking about Yan without even realizing it. The Prime Minister could clearly see she was starting to fall for him, so he warned her to protect her heart and not get too attached, reminding her that they would eventually divorce and she might regret loving him later. He genuinely seemed worried about her feelings. Meanwhile, Seung continued checking on the company stores and threatening the employees that even after marrying the prince, she could still return at any moment to punish lazy workers herself. Then she unexpectedly ran into her brother and informed him that she would soon transfer the company to him because members of the royal family were not allowed to work. Her greedy brother became unbelievably happy and practically started dancing with his wife. However, Seung's assistant was confused and asked why she would do something like that. Seung calmly revealed that she already had plans to deal with them in her own way. When she returned to the palace, the entire place was crowded because the wedding preparations had officially begun. Yan had already arrived before her, so she tried avoiding eye contact with him, afraid she would remember what happened between them and lose control again. But fate clearly had other plans. While the staff were measuring clothes for them side by side, Yan slowly leaned closer and closer to her. Shung nearly raised her hand to hit him, but she noticed people around them and stopped herself at the last second. Instead, Yan gently fixed her hair with unbelievable tenderness, causing her face to turn completely red from embarrassment. The assistant immediately thought Shung looked sick, and everyone panicked, insisting on calling a doctor. Even Dian stood there laughing because he clearly understood what was really going on. After the examination, the maid proudly announced that she would personally monitor Shung's health every single day for the sake of her future royal children. Shung was horrified and instantly looked toward Yan, expecting him to stop them, but the man was too busy laughing. The doctor then explained that her heartbeat was unusually fast, so Yan asked everyone to leave and declared that he would treat her himself. Alone with her, he directly asked if her condition was caused by what happened between them the previous night. Shung nervously admitted that he was the reason she felt so restless because he kept staring at her strangely and sending dangerous looks with those sharp eyes of his that resembled a deer's. Yan was completely shocked, silently thinking, "Wait, am I being flirted with right now? Please continue." But Seong quickly denied that the incident meant anything to her, insisting that the situation had simply forced them together and something similar could happen between any two strangers, so there was no reason to make a big deal out of it. Yan softly responded that she was not a stranger to him. He only got close to her because she had fallen directly into his arms. That night, Yan met with Rani, who asked whether he and his future bride were doing well. Yan immediately questioned what she truly wanted because he already knew how manipulative she could be. She pretended to be concerned, claiming that he and Shung came from completely different worlds and that future conflicts between them could damage the palace. Yan reminded her that she and his brother were once very similar, yet they still fought constantly. Through the conversation, it became clear that her husband had never cared about her properly. He constantly left her alone, even during important occasions, while Yan always stepped in to support her for the sake of the family. Then the truth about Rani's dark past was revealed. The moment she discovered her husband planned to give up the throne to Yan, she stole the royal will, worked together with an evil minister, and became the true reason behind her husband's death. But nobody knew the truth except that corrupt minister who helped her cover everything up. Back in the present, Yan carefully stored his secret marriage contract with Shung inside a safe. The contract revealed that their marriage would only last for 3 years. Then he pulled out another document, which turned out to be his brother's will. Apparently, his brother had always intended to pass the throne to Yan, though it still remained unclear how Yan obtained the document. The next day, Yan accompanied Shung to formally ask her father for permission to marry her. From the very beginning, it was obvious neither Shung nor her family could stand each other. Her family welcomed Yan warmly, especially her shameless brother who could not stop making jokes. He laughed and prayed Yan would somehow survive living with Shung because of her terrible temper. During dinner, her brother kept insulting her and teasing Yan, asking how the two of them even started dating. Yan eventually learned that Shung used to dream about marrying a slim and elegant man, but instead fate blessed her with a tall, muscular prince. Her brother jokingly offered to take Yan for himself if Shung did not want him. Shung desperately tried signaling him to shut up, but he kept going until his wife finally screamed at him to stop embarrassing everyone. Then Shung's father took over the conversation and admitted that his daughter was emotional and difficult to deal with. He asked Yan how he planned to survive living with her inside a palace full of conspiracies and schemes. Shung sarcastically asked if he suddenly remembered she was his daughter now, because when she had her accident in the past, he never even checked on her. She bitterly remembered how her father never truly loved her. When her brother got married, their father gave a company as a gift to his wife's family, but now that Shung was marrying a prince, he still refused to offer anything meaningful. She intentionally cornered and embarrassed him with her words until she finally excused herself before humiliating him any further. Naturally, Yan could not leave her alone and followed her to check on her. When he entered her room, he was shocked by the enormous number of medals and certificates covering the walls. He stared at them in disbelief, realizing she was actually an incredible genius. Shung told him to leave so she could calm down alone, but Yan simply sat beside her and refused. Trying to lighten the mood, he jokingly said her father seemed to like him very much. Shung coldly replied that her father loved nobody except himself, his money, his interests, and his precious son. Yan gently told her not to worry because there were still people who truly loved her. Then he started shamelessly flirting with her, and Seung honestly admitted that she already knew how overwhelming her beauty was. Teasingly, she asked if he liked her. Yan did not even hesitate for a second before confessing that he loved her, and that these feelings were a first for him. Slowly, he leaned closer and closer to her and softly reassured her that his feelings would never affect their agreement. He promised that if she ever wanted a divorce, he would let her go immediately. After leaving her family's house, the atmosphere completely changed compared to earlier that morning. Everyone suddenly seemed happy, as if the tension had disappeared. During the entire drive, Yan could not stop staring at Seung and admiring her beauty. At one point, he noticed her hand resting beside her and slowly reached out, wanting to hold it. Unfortunately for him, the moment was ruined when the Prime Minister suddenly called her. He was checking if her family visit had gone well, and it became painfully obvious that Yan was jealous. Once they arrived at the palace, Yan leaned close to her and loudly whispered that he would miss her until the wedding day because she would stay there while he returned to the main royal palace. Of course, the romantic words were heard by every servant nearby because privacy clearly did not exist in that palace. The moment Seong walked inside, the maids immediately started teasing her and repeating Yan's sweet words back to her. When she realized they were hungry, she kindly treated all of them to food at her own expense, making the servants adore their generous future bride even more. At the same time, the spy maid quietly started feeling guilty about everything happening around her. Meanwhile, the next day, Yan boldly visited the Prime Minister without warning and directly told him that he loved Seung. He also warned him to be careful with the way he treated her from now on because she was about to become his wife. The Prime Minister calmly asked whether Seong knew about Yan's feelings, but Yan refused to answer and told him it was none of his business. The Prime Minister then warned Yan not to give Seung false hope because they would eventually divorce anyway, and he did not want her heart to break later. After leaving, Yan immediately texted Seung, reminding her to take care of herself and eat lunch because she was probably hungry by now. While driving through the city, he noticed giant advertisements of her everywhere and kept admiring her beauty like a love-struck fool. Sadly, the ads were soon removed because royal wedding traditions apparently did not allow them once the ceremony got close. When Seong received his message during an important meeting, she suddenly smiled without realizing it. Her assistant immediately scolded her for losing focus, but Seong was already floating in another world. Her eyes practically filled with hearts and butterflies, while her heart raced uncontrollably. And honestly, while she was lost in romance, my attention was completely stolen by her incredible outfit. On the wedding day itself, Yan could not stay calm for even a second. He kept asking the servants where Seung was every few minutes. One maid finally scolded him, reminding him that from now on he could no longer call her by her first name. Without missing a beat, Yan dramatically corrected himself and asked, "Then where is my wife and the light of my eyes?" Meanwhile, Seung was preparing for the ceremony when her brother's wife unexpectedly came to check on her, acting like an aristocratic expert because she was supposedly raised in a noble household, as if Seung had grown up behind buffalo farms or something. No offense to buffaloes, by the way, especially considering how expensive they are these days. Suddenly, Seung received another call from the Prime Minister, who wanted to make sure she was okay. However, he quickly ended the call because Rani was standing nearby. She suspiciously asked him if everything was all right, but he pretended not to understand what she meant. Rani coldly warned him that he would eventually lose control of his emotions and expose himself. Then, the wedding ceremony officially began. Seung finally appeared, looking unbelievably beautiful, literally glowing like the moon itself. Honestly, I could barely hold myself back from asking how many clowns existed in this world compared to her beauty. But because she was not used to wearing such heavy royal clothes, the moment she entered the hall, she tripped and crashed directly onto a table. Everyone rushed to help her while Yan stood there laughing so hard he could barely breathe. Even when she tried drinking water, she kept coughing nervously. Despite the chaos, the ceremony was completed successfully, and the two of them officially became husband and wife. Afterwards, they stepped outside to greet the public, only to discover that the entire kingdom had gathered to celebrate them. Honestly, it was rude of them not to invite me too. The palace servants watched the event through television screens while crying emotional tears because the couple looked so perfect together. The newlyweds themselves were exhausted, and it was revealed that they were secretly wearing earpieces to communicate privately during the ceremony. The Prime Minister was also watching everything unfold, but unlike everyone else, he looked furious and heartbroken, as if tears were about to fall from his eyes. Sitting beside him, Rani secretly enjoyed his suffering because it was painfully obvious he loved Seung. She only made him angrier by reminding him that she had warned him to ruin the wedding earlier, but he refused to listen. Later, Yan and Seung returned to the palace to receive the king's blessing. The Prime Minister welcomed them there and congratulated them while silently suffering inside, practically radiating, "Forgive me, I could not celebrate your wedding the way others did." The king then officially blessed the couple, but suddenly Seung started coughing violently before collapsing unconscious. Yan was horrified. He immediately caught her in his arms and screamed at everyone, swearing that he would never forgive whoever harmed his wife. She was rushed straight to the hospital while Yan remained outside, waiting anxiously until the doctor finally came out. The doctor revealed that Seung had been poisoned through an overdose of medication and would remain unconscious until her body recovered. The moment Seung's father heard the news, he completely lost control and slapped Yan across the face. Apparently, nobody in this kingdom respected the prince at all. The guards instantly moved to arrest the man, but Yan stopped them himself, understanding a father's panic. Calmly, he promised that he would personally find the criminal responsible. Yet again, nobody seemed afraid of the prince, because even the Prime Minister arrived moments later, yelling at Yan and accusing him of failing to protect Seung from the very beginning. Honestly, how am I even supposed to curse him now when both husbands are already suffering? Ignoring the chaos, Yan announced that he wanted a full investigation involving every single person inside the palace. The Prime Minister informed Rani about the order, but she immediately objected and tried to bury the issue because such an investigation could damage the royal family's reputation. However, he coldly informed her that the order had already been approved and that even members of the royal family would be questioned. For the first time in the kingdom's history, every servant and royal family member from both palaces was gathered and interrogated. The authorities quickly became suspicious of the spy maid because she looked nervous and could barely answer their questions properly. Meanwhile, back at the hospital, Seung finally regained consciousness. The very first thing she asked about was Yan. At that exact moment, Yan was standing alone in a cemetery in front of his mother's grave, with his father buried beside her. Memories flooded back into his mind of his father abusing him, and he bitterly believed that losing the people he loved was his curse in life. Just then, a maid rushed over to tell him that Seung had finally awakened. Yan immediately ran all the way to the hospital like a madman, even charging up the stairs without caring about royal dignity. Honestly, someone should have stopped him with a tuk-tuk at that point. The moment he saw her awake, he grabbed her into an unbelievably tight embrace. And just like always, the people around them magically understood the situation and quietly left the room. Yan held onto her desperately, refusing to let go while breaking down in tears, silently begging her not to leave him. Seung immediately softened when she saw Yan crying like that. She gently comforted him, patting him and telling him to calm down because she was all right now. Then she asked him what exactly had happened to her. Before Yan could answer, the Prime Minister suddenly entered the room and ordered Yan to come with the police because they needed to investigate him too. After all, he was the one who demanded a full investigation in the first place, so now it was his turn to face questioning as well. The Prime Minister stayed beside Seung and explained everything that happened. He told her about the poisoning attempt, and Seung suddenly remembered tripping over the table during the wedding like they mentioned before. In the confusion, someone standing nearby had secretly switched the cups. That was when she realized the poison had actually been meant for Yan, not for her. Panicked, she immediately tried to run after him because she wanted to make sure he was okay, but the Prime Minister stopped her and calmly told her to stay where it was safe while he personally went to check on Yan himself. Meanwhile, during the interrogation, Yan explained that he had been taking that medicine because he suffered from sleeping problems. He insisted once again that he was the real target, not his wife, and demanded they find the criminal as quickly as possible. While everyone else was stressed and terrified, there was one person completely unbothered by the chaos, the ever-relaxed Rani. She sat there calmly playing the piano like nothing in the world mattered. The moment a maid informed her that the police had arrived for questioning, Rani immediately ordered her to hide everything suspicious. After Yan finished the investigation, he found the Prime Minister waiting for him outside. The Prime Minister explained that Sung would return to the palace the next day because it was the safest place for her now, especially since police officers were stationed everywhere around the palace grounds. Yan agreed with the decision. Once he returned home, he immediately ordered the servants to prepare everything for his wife's arrival. Meanwhile, Sung stayed awake late into the night worrying about him and waiting for his phone call. The moment he called, she first checked if he was all right, then immediately started yelling at him for acting so calm after everything that happened. Yan reassured her that her assistant was outside if she needed anything and reminded her that she would come back to the palace tomorrow anyway because he was already waiting for her. The next morning, Seung's sister-in-law arrived at the hospital looking ridiculously happy, mainly because the royal guards themselves had opened the car door for her. The moment she saw Seung, she started showering her with compliments, saying she looked beautiful and healthy even inside the hospital. Seung got annoyed by the fake praise and turned to her assistant for an honest opinion instead. Naturally, the assistant told her she looked gorgeous in every situation. Unsatisfied, Seung grabbed a mirror and started admiring herself dramatically. Then, realizing this was actually a disaster for her public image, she borrowed her sister-in-law's makeup kit and intentionally ruined her appearance a little. She explained that she needed to look weak and heartbroken, so the public and reporters waiting outside would sympathize with her more. Her sister-in-law, apparently an expert in dramatic acting techniques, even suggested she should flirt with the cameras using her eyes. Seung instantly rejected the idea, saying she would never stoop that low. But the second she stepped outside and saw the cameras pointed at her, she completely transformed. She started coughing dramatically, pretending to be exhausted while turning left and right to give every camera angle a perfect view of her suffering. Honestly, the shameless acting was unbelievable. Within seconds, her online supporters began flooding the internet with praise, claiming she looked beautiful but had become weaker ever since arriving at the palace. She played the victim so perfectly, it felt like she was starring in her own melodrama. When Sung finally returned to the palace, Rani welcomed her warmly and pretended she wanted them to start over like loving sisters. Sung almost snapped back at her, but instead pretended to feel tired and simply walked away. Soon after, the young king came to personally check on her, and Yan escorted her to their room. He had already filled the place with the latest medical equipment to monitor her condition and kept giving endless instructions to the servants. One maid assured him not to worry because she would take care of Seung with her own eyes. At that moment, Seung called out to him, and Yan instantly answered with, "Yes, my love, are you tired? Should we go back to the hospital?" In the softest voice possible, Seung told him she wanted to speak with him alone. Yan immediately kicked everyone out of the room. The servants left smiling happily, whispering that newlyweds obviously needed privacy. Once they were finally alone, Seung relaxed on the bed and admitted she had only sent everyone away because she still was not used to all the formal royal treatment. She felt like everyone was constantly watching her. Yan gently explained that the servants were only there to protect her, but Seung replied that he was actually the one who needed protection. She found it strange how calm he seemed after almost being poisoned. Yan smiled softly and told her that as long as she was safe, he could finally relax. He even thanked God that the criminal had targeted him instead of her. The moment he said that, Seung grabbed a pillow and smacked him with it, angrily asking if he actually wanted to get hurt or die. She accused him of wanting to become a widower instead of simply divorcing her someday. Deep inside, she was terrified for him, but of course she stubbornly refused to admit it. Yan understood her feelings perfectly and gently calmed her down. A little later, Yan suddenly changed clothes and came back wearing an open robe that showed off his muscles on purpose. Honestly, this man had clearly been lying about being innocent the whole time. Seung completely lost her composure, especially when he leaned closer and whispered that tonight was technically their first night together as husband and wife, so she should prepare herself. Her heartbeat immediately skyrocketed so fast that even the medical monitor beside her started drawing heart patterns from the shock. Honestly, that machine must have been imported straight from India because there was no logical explanation for it anymore. But since this is still a respectable summary told by a respectable woman, Yan simply slept beside her in case she needed anything during the night. Seung demanded that he sleep on the couch so she could relax comfortably, but when he refused, she angrily placed a pillow barrier between them. Yan casually threw the pillow away and told her nothing could ever keep him away from her. Then he pulled her into his arms and explained that palace privacy was practically non-existent, meaning they were definitely being watched by security cameras anyway. Sung reluctantly accepted the situation and eventually fell asleep resting against his chest and muscles. Yan, meanwhile, completely took advantage of the moment and kissed the top of her head. Honestly, they kept talking about being monitored, but at this point I felt like I was the one spying on them. The next day, Yan suddenly switched assistants and assigned Seung's assistant to work with him while sending his own assistant to help Seung instead. The assistant informed her that they had an important seminar at the academy that day and began teaching her proper etiquette, manners, and all the things she absolutely was not allowed to do. Seung confidently agreed, then immediately decided to wear jewelry from her own company to boost sales. Seriously, this woman was fighting battles on every possible front. Just then, Yan entered, announcing that he was ready to leave. Seung looked at his outfit in disgust and demanded he change into something that matched her clothes better so they could look good together. After she walked away, Yan quietly asked the assistant if he really looked that bad. The assistant immediately panicked and reassured him that he looked incredibly handsome and could easily win the title of the world's most attractive man. The moment they arrived at the academy, every single rule Seung had been warned about instantly disappeared, especially when it came to taking pictures. The two of them looked unbelievably perfect together, and Yan eventually asked her to stop greeting the crowd so they could finally go inside, but Seung completely ignored him and spent another 30 minutes waving to fans and soaking up attention. Once inside, she secretly activated her online fan army again, flooding social media with praise for her appearance. Soon after, an assistant informed them that the Prime Minister would arrive late. Seung immediately asked what happened to him using a cute nickname, causing Yan to become jealous on the spot. He sharply corrected her and reminded her that she should call him Prime Minister, not by affectionate nicknames. Seung then walked onto the stage and began giving her speech while the students cheered for her. But suddenly, the atmosphere changed completely. Nobody seemed interested in listening anymore because every person in the audience suddenly became glued to their phones. Yan immediately stepped in front of Seung protectively as reporters rushed toward them. Then the shocking truth was revealed. Their marriage contract had been leaked to the public, exposing everything across the entire country. Yan quickly grabs Seung's hand to calm her down and rushes her away, only for them to suddenly come face to face with the Prime Minister himself. Since the entire public is waiting outside the academy, he tells them they cannot leave yet. Moments later, the academy gates open dramatically as guards line up on both sides, holding umbrellas to hide them from the reporters. Yan and Seung hurry into the car safely, only to discover that the assistant and his partner intentionally distracted the reporters so the two of them could escape unnoticed. During the chaos, a sweet romantic moment happens when the assistant girl realizes her hand is still in his, making both of them awkwardly nervous. Back at the palace, things only get worse. The Prime Minister asks who knows about the marriage contract besides them, and when they mention the assistants, he tells them to remain silent until they discover who leaked the secret. However, Yan believes staying quiet will only make the rumors spread further. The Prime Minister coldly tells him there is only one condition under which he can speak publicly: if they truly plan to divorce after 3 years, exactly as written in the contract. Sadly, their silence backfires terribly. Rumors explode across the country claiming Seung was behind the fire during the young king's birthday celebration because she supposedly wanted to eliminate him so Yan could seize power as regent. Others accuse her illness at the wedding of being fake sympathy bait. Even Yan becomes a target as people begin accusing him of causing his own brother's death years ago just to take the throne. While Yan tries to act strong and tells Seung to ignore the gossip because he is used to it, she feels devastated knowing his reputation is being destroyed because of her. That night at the palace, Rani gathers all the ministers to discuss the crisis. The moment Yan enters with Seung, she humiliates them in front of everyone and throws them out publicly. Yan becomes so furious that he injures his own hand, but when Seung notices the wound later in their room, she gently comforts him. He suddenly pulls her into his arms and whispers that he wants her to stay close because only then does he feel safe. Unfortunately, the disasters keep piling up. The next day, the assistant discovers that their company shares are collapsing because of the scandals, while angry citizens protest outside the palace demanding Yan step down as regent. Feeling cornered, Yan meets the prime minister and says he can no longer endure the pressure. He wants to reveal the truth, that their marriage started as a contract, but that he genuinely loves his wife now, and none of the disgusting rumors are true. But the prime minister refuses, insisting such a revelation would destroy the royal family's image and demanding Yan quietly give up his regency position instead. The story then flashes back 5 days earlier, revealing that the prime minister had secretly been investigating the poisoning incident. He eventually discovered that one of the maids was responsible. When confronted, she breaks down and confesses that the evil minister ordered her to poison the prince in exchange for money to pay for her brother's surgery. Armed with proof, the prime minister confronts Rani, who desperately denies everything until he reveals the evidence. Terrified, she finally agrees to cooperate with him as long as Yan never learns the truth. Ironically, Yan is standing outside during the conversation and nearly walks in, forcing them to hide everything from him. Later that night, Rani confronts the evil minister, who is revealed to be her own father. He admits he committed all those crimes to protect her because the prince had already discovered that she was responsible for his brother's death. Soon after, Rani secretly meets the prime minister at the cemetery and hands him Yan and Seung's marriage contract, asking him to leak it publicly and use online media campaigns to pressure Yan into surrendering his regency. Her plan is simple and cruel. Once Yan loses power, Seung will divorce him, leaving him useless while the prime minister can finally pursue her himself. It is then revealed that the prime minister has secretly been the mastermind behind nearly everything happening. Meanwhile, Rani continues attacking Seung directly, insulting her and implying that someone like her does not deserve a royal title or life inside the palace. But Seung calmly fires back, saying that as long as she remains beside Yan, he is already winning in life. On the other side, the evil minister pressures the young king into punishing Yan, but the child refuses because Yan is his beloved uncle. Yan then confronts the minister personally, warning him that if he ever threatens his nephew again, he will destroy him completely. The story also reveals the tragic truth behind Yan's brother's death. Years ago, Yan accidentally overheard Rani arguing with her husband because the prince wanted to give up the throne for Yan, while Rani violently opposed the idea and later stole the royal will for herself. Young Yan comforted his frightened nephew that day exactly the same way he comforts him now, promising that as long as his uncle is beside him, nobody will ever hurt him. As if things were not painful enough already, Seung receives a desperate call from her brother, informing her that the company is collapsing and their father is mentally breaking down. She lies to Yan and says she is simply visiting her sick father alone because reporters would create another scandal if he came with her. Instead, she secretly rushes to the prime minister begging for help while crying helplessly. He asks whether her marriage with Yan is still fake, but Seung firmly answers no and confesses that she truly loves Yan deeply. Later, she kneels before her own father for the first time in her life, crying as she apologizes and begs him for forgiveness and help. However, her father cruelly asks whether she wants him to save her or the prince. Without hesitation, she chooses Yan. When Seung returns to the palace and sees Yan waiting for her, she runs into his arms and hugs him tightly. But moments later, she shatters his heart by telling him she wants a divorce. Yan immediately asks whether someone hurt her and promises to protect her, but Seung painfully lies, claiming that since marrying him, she has only lost her company, her reputation, and her family's stability. She insists he can never truly protect her, so divorce is the best solution. In reality, every word breaks her own heart because she is only obeying her father's orders. He warned her that staying beside Yan would continue ruining his life and could eventually cost him the throne itself. During a massive meeting with all the ministers the next day, Seung suddenly announces that she and Yan will divorce. She explains that once she becomes an ordinary citizen again, investigators can freely question her about the poisoning and the king's birthday fire. She bravely declares that she is not afraid of accusations because Yan did nothing wrong and nobody has the right to force him to abandon his position. At the same time, Seung and her brother hold a press conference where he lies to the media by claiming Yan and Seung were secretly in love long before the marriage scandal broke out. He says the marriage contract was never serious and was only created because Yan feared Seung might get cold feet after marriage. Since royal marriages cannot legally end in divorce anyway, he claims the contract itself is meaningless. Afterward, Sung uses online media teams to manipulate public opinion until the people finally begin supporting Yan again. Then comes the biggest shock of all. The young king secretly signs a royal decree surrendering the throne to Yan. During the official meeting, the royal spokesperson publicly announces that Yan is now the new king. Everyone is stunned, especially the evil minister, who nearly loses his mind in rage. Later, Yan confronts Seong emotionally, hurt that she tried to abandon him and never trusted him enough to fight beside him. Meanwhile, Rani completely breaks down after realizing all her plans have failed. Her son even locks himself inside his room using heavy furniture because he no longer wants to see her, revealing how deeply traumatized he has become after overhearing the terrible truths about his parents. At the same time, Seong grows worried because Yan stops answering her calls and messages. Unknown to her, he had secretly gone to the riverside with the assistant to clear his mind. Eventually, Seong sends him a message saying she is sick, making him reveal his location immediately. The moment she arrives, she throws herself into his arms, but Yan coldly asks her to stay away because he is still hurt by what she did. Finally, Seong tearfully confesses that she truly loves him and even kisses him softly. Though Yan tries to resist, his gentle heart eventually forgives her after she admits she only pushed him away to protect him. The next morning, Yan prepares for the royal coronation ceremony, but hesitates because he never wanted the throne after his brother's death. Seong encourages him, telling him he should accept it for the people, for his nephew, and for her too. Back at the palace, Rani desperately tries to convince him not to take the throne because it belongs to her son, but Yan calmly says he has already decided and even tells her he will not punish her for her past crimes. The story then reveals another heartbreaking truth from the past. Rani originally loved Yan long before marrying the crown prince. However, her father forced her into the royal marriage so their family could secure power through her children. She sacrificed her future, her dreams, and even her heart. But Yan firmly rejects her now, declaring that he is married and completely loyal to his wife. Finally, as Yan dresses in royal robes to officially become king, the young prince visits his mother. Overcome with guilt, she breaks down emotionally after realizing her son heard everything she and his father said years ago. It seems her conscience is finally awakening. Before the coronation begins, Rani secretly sends Yan a message asking to meet him in the small hall. While Seong waits nervously outside with the assistant, she asks whether the people would ever truly accept her as queen. The assistant comforts her by saying the problem is not her, people simply love attacking those who shine the brightest. But before anyone can relax, a gunshot suddenly echoes from the small hall. Everyone panics and rushes toward the source of the sound, only to find the building engulfed in flames while Yan is still trapped inside. The moment Seong hears Yan trapped inside the burning hall, she immediately rushes into the flames to save him. Yan can hear her voice and desperately begs her not to come inside, but there is no way she could ever leave him there alone. She tries opening the door, but the metal is burning hot and badly burns her hands. Still, she forces herself to endure the pain, finally pushing the door open and reaching Yan, only to discover that he has already lost consciousness. She struggles to carry him out by herself but cannot move him, so she screams for help until the brave assistant manages to rush inside, carry Yan on his back and bring him out safely. Yan's condition is critical, and Seong refuses to leave his side. Soon, the Prime Minister arrives and pulls her outside to check on her safety. Instead of comforting her, he angrily scolds her for risking her life so recklessly. Seong immediately fires back, saying Yan would have died if she had not gone inside. But strangely, the Prime Minister responds emotionally, telling her that Yan can go to hell for all he cares, but she must protect her own life because he cannot continue worrying about her like this. His unusual reaction leaves Seong shocked, making her feel like something about him has changed completely. After he leaves, Seong questions the assistant about what really happened because Yan was supposed to officially take the throne that day. The assistant explains that Rani first sent Yan a message asking him to meet her, but he refused. Then the Prime Minister sent another message requesting a meeting inside the small hall, and shortly after, the fire broke out. Confused and suspicious, Seong stays beside Yan and promises she will uncover the truth. The next morning, she requests access to the palace security cameras and the names of everyone present during the incident, but the staff refuses to cooperate without Rani's approval. When Seong confronts Rani, the woman surprisingly seems genuinely worried about Yan's condition. Seong does not trust her at all and bluntly tells her that if she truly cares, she should authorize access to the cameras immediately. Rani finally agrees, and Seung orders the assistant to investigate not only the fire, but also the old poisoning case. That is when she learns something terrifying. The Prime Minister secretly closed the poisoning investigation long ago without informing anyone. Her suspicions toward him deepen even more. Meanwhile, the Prime Minister visits Yan's room under the pretense of checking on his health. He gently explains that the doctors expect Yan to remain in a coma for some time. Seung thanks him sincerely, unaware that her instincts are actually correct. The moment he returns to his office, he secretly orders his secretary to spread rumors that Yan has died and that Seung herself is in critical condition, throwing the entire palace into chaos. The following day, he even approaches Rani and proposes that she take control of the kingdom while Yan remains unconscious. Rani is shocked because Yan is technically still alive, but before she can respond, Yan suddenly walks into the room completely awake and healthy, announcing that he will personally take charge of the country from now on. At the same time, Seung continues investigating the fire until the assistant finally tells her Yan has regained consciousness. She immediately runs to him, but halfway there, Yan pulls her into a tight embrace and scolds her for risking her life for him. Seung replies that he would have done exactly the same thing for her. Later in private, she asks why he visited Rani immediately after waking up. Yan explains that the Prime Minister wanted Rani to rule in his place while he was unconscious, and there was no way he would ever allow that. However, when Seung asks whether he fully trusts the Prime Minister, Yan says yes because the man has always worked hard to protect both the palace and the country. Seung stays silent, though she clearly no longer believes in the Prime Minister's innocence. Soon afterward, the authorities arrest the man responsible for the fire, who turns out to be one of the palace guards. However, the truth is far darker because the evil minister deliberately sacrificed the guard to cover up his own crimes. He even tells his daughter to prepare herself to become the next queen because Yan is probably weakened after inhaling large amounts of gas during the fire. The moment he casually mentions the gas leak, his daughter realizes something horrifying. Nobody, except the criminal, should know that detail. She instantly understands that her own father orchestrated the attack. Consumed with guilt and terrified she is slowly becoming just as evil as him, she secretly orders the spy maid to prepare for the plan they discussed earlier. The next day, she kneels before Yan and tearfully confesses that her father was behind the poisoning incident at the wedding. She hands over a file containing all the evidence and reveals that the same man also caused the fire because he wanted Yan dead. Furious, Yan demands to know whether she expects forgiveness after hiding the truth for so long. But she says no. She wants him punished with the harshest sentence possible, even if she herself must also be punished for covering up his crimes. When Yan later tells Seung everything, he hesitates because punishing Rani would create a massive scandal for the royal family and hurt his nephew even more. Seung gently comforts him and encourages him to do what is right. The next day, Yan thanks the Prime Minister for helping uncover the criminal so quickly. The Prime Minister proudly accepts the praise, but the moment Yan questions him about the poisoning case, his expression changes. He admits the evil minister was responsible, but claims he hid the truth because revealing it would damage the palace's reputation. Yan becomes furious, arguing that no one has the right to protect a criminal. At that moment, Yan finally starts connecting the dots, especially after Rani previously revealed that the Prime Minister had known the truth long ago and blackmailed her into cooperating with him. Suspicion grows in Yan's heart, but he still keeps calm and announces that he has officially ordered the arrest of the evil minister. The Prime Minister objects, warning him it will destroy the royal family's image, but Yan shocks everyone by revealing his ultimate decision. Once he fully takes the throne, he plans to abolish the monarchy entirely and turn the nation into a republic. The evil minister is finally arrested, and Yan personally visits him in prison. The man shamelessly claims he committed all those crimes only to protect his daughter, but Yan coldly informs him that his own daughter was the one who exposed him in the end. Meanwhile, the Prime Minister gathers the remaining ministers, who are furious about Yan's plan because they invested huge amounts of money to keep the monarchy alive for their own benefit. They decide to manipulate the public into demanding a new king instead. However, the next day, everything changes when Yan officially becomes king and immediately announces his first royal decree: the monarchy will be abolished and replaced with a republic. The Prime Minister insists they should at least hold a public vote first, claiming the people's opinion matters most. Elsewhere, Ronnie visits her father in prison. Furious, he mocks her for coming to visit after helping lock him up. She calmly responds that the law must take its course, but before she leaves, he drops one final bombshell. The Prime Minister was actually the mastermind behind everything, because he was the one who summoned Jan to the hall right before the fire started. Ronnie leaves in complete shock, but before she can fully process the truth, the Prime Minister approaches her and offers her a ride. During the drive, he threatens her, warning that if she opposes him, she will regret it through her son. The following day, Jan gathers all the officials and exposes them for manipulating the people's opinions without conducting any real public survey. At that moment, Seong arrives and finally reveals the truth. The Prime Minister was the one who tried to kill Jan. She even plays an audio recording of his confession, secretly recorded by Ronnie during their car ride the previous night. Calmly dismissing everyone else from the room, Jan confronts the Prime Minister privately and asks him directly whether the accusations are true. Without hesitation, the Prime Minister confesses everything. He bitterly explains that his love for Seong was what transformed him into a villain because he once begged Jan to stay away from her, but Jan refused and married her instead. Jan is heartbroken because he always considered the Prime Minister like an older brother, yet the man betrayed him completely. Of course, the Prime Minister is finally arrested, and soon after, the people officially approve Jan's decision to abolish the monarchy. Ironically, Jan becomes the happiest person of all because he is finally free from the crushing burdens and responsibilities that came with the throne. 3 years later, Seong finally returns to managing her company because her brother takes a vacation after his wife becomes pregnant. Meanwhile, Jan and the assistant have become completely relaxed house husbands, standing in the kitchen preparing dinner while joking about how the women are busy working outside. Jan proudly says he loves cooking his wife's favorite meals and spoiling her every day. Suddenly, Seong calls to explain that they cannot come home because an important business meeting appeared unexpectedly. The disappointed men end up eating dinner outside instead, surrounded by romantic couples everywhere. That is when Jan notices the assistant wearing a wedding ring, revealing that he actually married the assistant girl 3 years ago. Feeling jealous because he himself never properly proposed to Seong, Jan decides to fix that immediately. When he returns home, the maid teases him by hinting that she hopes for baby news soon, but Jan quickly kicks her out for interfering too much in their private lives. The next day, he shops for gifts with his nephew, who has now grown into a talented musician after finally escaping the strict academy life and attending a normal school instead. Later, Jan prepares a beautiful bouquet to propose to Seong all over again, but she accidentally ruins the surprise by standing right behind him. Back at home, Jan tells her he wants to hold a proper wedding this time and asks whether she wants to wear a beautiful white dress instead of the ridiculous outfit she wore during their first ceremony. However, Seong softly refuses because, to her, their original wedding was already perfect since she genuinely loved him even back then. When she asks when he first fell in love with her, Jan smiles and admits that he fell for her from the very first day he saw her at the academy. In the final scene, everyone attends a match for their favorite sports team while wearing matching jerseys. At first, the camera focuses on the assistant couple during their romantic moment, causing the audience to cheer wildly for them instead of watching the game. But moments later, the camera suddenly lands on Jan and Seong. The crowd instantly loses control and begins loudly demanding a kiss live on screen. Clearly unable to resist anymore, the two finally give in, ending the drama on a sweet and romantic note.